I never thought I'd be the kind of person who'd break into my own brother's house. But when my 7-year-old nephew drew a picture at my kitchen table that made my blood run cold, I knew the rules had changed. It was a Saturday in late November, and the first snow had just started falling over Vancouver. My nephew, Owen, was staying with me for the weekend, while his parents attended some corporate gala in Whistler. Owen's father, my younger brother Derek, had married into money 3 years ago. His wife, Vanessa, came from old Vancouver wealth, the kind that owns half of Shaughnessy and winters in Palm Springs. Owen had always been a quiet kid, thoughtful in a way that seemed unusual for his age. That Saturday morning, while I made pancakes, he sat at my kitchen table with his coloring pencils spread out before him, working intently on something. I remember feeling grateful for the peace, for the sound of pencils scratching paper while bacon sizzled in the pan. "Uncle Garrett?" His small voice cut through my thoughts. "Yeah, buddy? Do you want to see what I drew?" I turned from the stove, wiping my hands on a dish towel. "Of course. Let's see it." He held up the paper, and my smile froze. The drawing showed stick figures in what appeared to be a basement. One tall figure, one small figure. The small figure was lying down. Above it, in Owen's careful printing, were the words, "The basement game with Mommy's friend." That's an interesting drawing, Owen. Can you tell me about it?" He looked down at the paper, his voice going even quieter. "Mr. Harrison comes over sometimes when Daddy's at work. Mommy says we play special games in the basement, and I can't tell anyone, because it's our secret. But you're my favorite uncle, so I thought maybe it was okay." The pancakes burned. I didn't notice until the smoke alarm went off. That afternoon, after I'd managed to act normal through lunch and a movie, after Owen had fallen asleep on my couch during some cartoon, I sat in my home office and stared at that drawing. My hands were shaking. Marcus Harrison. I knew exactly who he was. Derek and Vanessa's neighbor, some tech executive who'd made millions selling his startup. He was always at their house for dinner parties, always prominent in Vanessa's social media posts. Distinguished looking, late 40s, salt and pepper hair. The kind of man people instinctively trusted. I wanted to call Derek immediately. I wanted to call the police. But I'd spent 10 years as an investigative journalist before burning out and switching to teaching journalism at UBC. I knew how these cases went. A child's drawing and a statement about games wasn't enough. Not when you were accusing a wealthy, connected man. Not when the child's own mother was apparently facilitating it. I needed proof. The next morning, Sunday, I drove Owen back to their house in Shaughnessy, that beautiful prison with its manicured lawns and heritage trees. Vanessa answered the door in yoga pants and a cashmere sweater, her smile bright and hollow. "Garrett, how was he? Not too much trouble, I hope?" "Perfect angel, as always." I handed her Owen's backpack, watching as my nephew hesitated at the threshold. "Hey, Owen, give Uncle Garrett a hug goodbye." He wrapped his small arms around my waist, and I felt him trembling. When I pulled back, his eyes met mine, and I saw something there that made my heart crack. A silent plea. "I'll see you real soon, buddy. Okay?" He nodded, not speaking. As I drove away, I watched him in my rearview mirror, standing in that doorway, getting smaller and smaller. I made myself a promise right then. Whatever it took, I was getting him out of there. I spent Sunday night planning. Derek and Vanessa had given me a key to their house 2 years ago, after I'd helped them when their furnace died during a cold snap. They'd never asked for it back. Derek's habits were predictable. Monday through Friday, he left for his law office at 7:30 sharp. Vanessa went to her Pilates class at 9, followed by lunch with her circle of wealthy friends. Owen would be at school. Monday morning, I called in sick to the university. At 9:45, I parked 3 blocks from their house and walked through the alley. The key still worked. The house was silent, expensive, and empty. I'd been there dozens of times for family dinners, holidays, Owen's birthday parties. But now it felt different, sinister. Every perfect detail, from the fresh flowers in crystal vases to the abstract art on the walls, felt like a lie. I started in the basement. It was finished beautifully, hardwood floors, a home theater system, a bar area. But there was a door I'd never noticed before, tucked behind the bar, locked. I'm not proud of what I did next. I'd learned to pick basic locks during an investigation years ago, when I was still a real journalist. still chasing stories that mattered. The lock gave way in less than 3 minutes. The room behind it was small, maybe 10 by 12 feet. Soundproofed, I realized, seeing the acoustic panels on the walls. There was a leather couch, a camera on a tripod, and a filing cabinet. My stomach turned. The filing cabinet was locked, but I was beyond caring about niceties. I used a screwdriver from Derek's tool bench to force it open. Inside were USB drives, dozens of them, labeled with dates, and files, paper files with names I didn't recognize. Children's names. I pulled out my phone and started photographing everything. My hands were steady now, journalist instincts taking over. Document everything. Create a chain of evidence. Make sure nothing gets lost. One of the files was labeled Owen, age 5 to 7. I didn't open it. I couldn't. Instead, I pocketed it along with half a dozen USB drives. I'd need expert help to handle this properly, to make sure it would stand up in court. I was closing the cabinet when I heard it, the garage door opening. Someone was home. I froze, listening to footsteps above me, heels on hardwood. Vanessa. She wasn't supposed to be back until after 1. I carefully, silently, made my way back through the basement toward the stairs. But the layout meant I'd have to pass right by the kitchen to reach the front door. I could hear her voice now, on the phone. Marcus, I told you, not until after 3. Derek comes home early sometimes. A pause. No, Owen has soccer practice. We'll have the house to ourselves. I felt rage so pure it almost blinded me. This woman, this mother, was scheduling her son's abuse like a business meeting. I waited until I heard her footsteps heading upstairs, then moved. I was out the front door and 3 blocks away before I let myself breathe. That night, I met with Rachel Chen, a former colleague who'd specialized in investigative work on child exploitation. She was now a private investigator, one of the best in Vancouver. Garrett, you know what you did was illegal, she said. But she was already pulling on latex gloves, ready to examine what I'd brought. I know. I don't care. Can you tell me what's on these? She looked at me for a long moment. This is going to be bad, isn't it? Yes. It took her 3 hours to go through the USB drives. When she finally looked up, her face was pale. We need to call the police. Now. This isn't just Owen. There are at least 6 other children in these files. And Garrett. She paused. Vanessa isn't just facilitating. She's participating. She's filming. I thought I'd understood evil. I'd reported on corruption, violence, greed. But this was different. This was a mother selling her own child. Detective Sarah Okonkwo, from the Vancouver Police Department's Integrated Child Exploitation Unit, met us at Rachel's office at midnight. She was in her early 40s, with gray-streaked braids and eyes that had seen too much. Talk, she said. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, taking notes. The evidence you obtained is inadmissible, she said when I finished. You broke into a private residence. I know, however. She looked at the files spread across Rachel's desk. What you've discovered gives us probable cause for a warrant. If even half of what's in these files is verified, we can move quickly. But I need you to understand something, Mr. Blackwood. This is going to destroy your family. Your brother will lose everything, and it's going to be painful for Owen. He's already in pain. At least this way, it stops. She nodded slowly. All right, I'll need sworn statements from both of you. And Mr. Blackwood, you need to act completely normal. Don't contact your brother or sister-in-law. Don't do anything that might tip them off. Can you do that? The next 72 hours were the longest of my life. I went to work, taught my classes, graded papers. I smiled at colleagues and made small talk. And every night, I lay awake wondering if Owen was okay, if he was scared, if he was waiting for me to save him. On Thursday morning, Detective Okonkwo called. It's happening today. We've coordinated with the school. They'll take Owen into protective custody when we execute the warrant at 10 a.m. I wanted you to know. At 10:15, my phone rang. Derek. Garrett, what the fuck did you do? His voice was shaking with rage. The police just raided my house. They arrested Vanessa. They're saying things about Owen, about... He couldn't finish. I'm sorry, Derek. Sorry? You destroyed our family. Over what? A child's drawing? Some fantasy in your sick mind? It wasn't a fantasy. The police found evidence. A lot of it. Evidence you planted. You broke into my house. I did break into your house. But I didn't plant anything. Derek, ask yourself, why would the police arrest Vanessa if there wasn't proof? Why would they take Owen? Silence. Then, quieter. This can't be real. Vanessa wouldn't. She's his mother. I know. I wish I was wrong. I really do. He hung up. The next few weeks were a blur. Marcus Harrison was arrested attempting to flee to the United States. The investigation expanded as they identified the other children. It turned out Harrison had been running a sophisticated network, and Vanessa had been his primary recruiter, using her social connections to identify vulnerable families. Derek filed for divorce before Vanessa's arraignment. He also voluntarily gave up custody of Owen to me while the investigation continued. When he came to drop off Owen's things at my apartment, he looked like he'd aged a decade. I should have seen it, he said, standing in my doorway. I was his father. I should have protected him. You were working 60-hour weeks at the firm. She was good at hiding it. That's not an excuse. He looked past me, to where Owen was setting up his Nintendo in the living room. Can I see him? The therapist says it's too soon. He's angry at both of you right now. He thinks you knew. Derek's face crumpled. I didn't. I swear to God, Garrett, I didn't know. I believe you. But Owen needs time. The trial started the following spring. I won't go into the details because they're a matter of public record now, and because some things, once you know them, you can't unknow. What I will say is that Owen had to testify. The prosecution tried to shield him as much as possible, used video testimony, kept him away from the courtroom. But he still had to tell his story, had to recount things no 7-year-old, no 8-year-old by then, should even know words for. But he was brave. So incredibly brave. Vanessa got 45 years. Marcus Harrison got life without parole. 3 other adults in their network were also convicted. Owen and the other children were finally safe. The day after the verdicts, I took Owen to Stanley Park. We walked along the seawall, watching the freighters in the harbor, the mountains rising beyond the water. Uncle Garrett? He'd started calling me just Garrett now, at his therapist's suggestion. It helped create distance from the trauma, apparently. Yeah, buddy. Did you believe me? That first time I told you about the game? I stopped walking, crouched down to his level. I believed you immediately, Owen. Not for 1 second did I doubt you. Tommy's mom didn't believe him. That's what his therapist told my therapist. He tried to tell her 3 times. Tommy was one of the other victims. A boy from Owen's school. Some adults make terrible mistakes. They don't want to believe something so awful could be true, so they convince themselves it isn't. But that's on them, not on the kids who tried to tell. Dr. Reza says I was very brave to tell you. You were the bravest person I've ever met. He was quiet for a moment, watching a seaplane take off from the harbor. I still have nightmares sometimes. I know. That's normal. Dr. Reza says they'll get better with time. Do you have nightmares about it too? The question caught me off guard. Sometimes, yeah. What do you do when you wake up scared? I remind myself that you're safe now, that they can't hurt you anymore. And then I usually go check on you, make sure you're sleeping okay. He slipped his hand into mine. I know. I pretend to be asleep so you won't worry. We stood there for a while, hand in hand, watching the city move around us. Owen had started smiling again, real smiles that reached his eyes. He'd made a friend at his new school, a kid named Jeremy who was teaching him to skateboard. He was seeing Dr. Reza twice a week and doing art therapy. He had nightmares, yes, but he also had good days. More good days than bad now. Garrett, he said as we started walking again, can I ask you something? Anything. Why do you think Mommy did it? Dr. Reza says we can talk about it if I want to. I chose my words carefully. Some people are sick in ways we can't see. Not sick like a cold, but sick in their thinking, in their choices. Your mom made terrible choices that hurt you and other kids. That's on her, not on you. Nothing you did caused this. I know. Dr. Reza tells me that a lot. Sometimes I believe it. That's good. Keep working on believing it. Do you think I'll ever be normal again? I stopped walking again, turned to face him fully. Owen, you are normal. What happened to you was not normal. The adults who hurt you were not normal. But you're a smart, kind, brave kid who likes Minecraft and hates broccoli and wants to be a marine biologist when you grow up. That's who you are. What they did to you is something that happened to you, but it's not who you are. Do you understand the difference? He thought about it. I think so. It's okay if you don't fully get it yet. It took me a long time to understand that too. Did something bad happen to you when you were a kid? Different kind of bad. But yeah, and I spent a long time thinking it defined me. It doesn't. And what happened to you doesn't define you either. We walked the rest of the seawall loop in comfortable silence. When we got back to my car, Owen said, "Can we get sushi for dinner?" Absolutely. The place with the robot servers? His face lit up. Yeah, and just like that, we were back to being uncle and nephew, arguing about whether California rolls counted as real sushi, making plans for the weekend. The trauma was there, would always be there in some form, but it wasn't everything. It wasn't even most things anymore. That night, after Owen was asleep, I sat in my home office and thought about all the ways this could have gone differently. If Owen hadn't felt safe enough to draw that picture, if I hadn't believed him, if I'd called Derek first instead of investigating on my own, if Rachel hadn't known how to preserve the evidence properly, if Detective Okonkwo hadn't been willing to push for that warrant. So many points where it could have fallen apart. But it hadn't, because one little boy was brave enough to tell, and the adults in his life were brave enough to listen. 6 months later, Derek asked to start supervised visitation with Owen. The therapists agreed it was time. Owen was nervous, but willing. Their first visit was at a park, with me sitting on a bench nearby. I watched Derek push Owen on the swings, both of them tentative, rebuilding something that had been shattered. Afterward, Derek walked over to me, while Owen played on the climbing structure. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for believing him, for doing what I should have done. You didn't know. I should have. I was so focused on my career, on fitting into Vanessa's world, that I stopped seeing what was right in front of me." He paused. "He talks about you a lot in therapy, apparently, about how you made him feel safe. He's a good kid. It wasn't hard. It was, though. You risked everything. Your relationship with me, potential criminal charges, everything. For him, he's my nephew. There was no choice." Derek nodded, his eyes wet. "I'm starting to understand that now. There's no choice when it comes to protecting your child." He looked toward Owen. "I failed at that, but I'm trying to do better. The therapist says it'll take time. It will. But you're showing up. That matters." Over the following year, things slowly normalized, as much as they could. Derek got joint custody back, though Owen still lived with me most of the time. Owen made the select soccer team at his school. He started piano lessons. He had good weeks and bad weeks, but the trajectory was upward. I started writing again, too, for the first time since I'd left journalism. Not about Owen's case. That was his story to tell if he ever wanted to. But about the systems that fail children, about how to recognize signs of abuse, about the importance of believing kids when they tell you something's wrong. One article I wrote for the Globe and Mail got picked up nationally. It was titled "Why We Must Listen When Children Whisper." In it, I laid out statistics that made my skin crawl, about how many children try to report abuse and aren't believed, about how perpetrators groom entire families and communities. But I also wrote about hope, about the kids I'd met through Owen's support group who were healing, who were finding their voices again, about the importance of creating safe spaces where children know they can tell the truth. The response was overwhelming. I got hundreds of emails from survivors, from parents, from teachers. Many shared their own stories. Some asked for advice. A few said the article had given them the courage to finally report something they'd witnessed or suspected. That's when I realized my role in all of this wasn't finished. It had just changed. I started consulting with schools and community organizations about child safety protocols. I helped train mandatory reporters on how to respond when a child discloses abuse. I spoke at conferences about the intersection of wealth, privilege, and child exploitation, how predators use social status as camouflage. It wasn't the career I'd planned, but it was the one I needed. 2 years after that first drawing, Owen and I were sitting at my kitchen table again, same spot where this all started. He was working on homework, and I was grading papers. "Garrett?" he said, not looking up from his math worksheet. "Yeah?" "Jeremy's little sister said something weird at soccer practice today." I set down my pen, giving him my full attention. "What kind of weird?" "She said her uncle does stuff that makes her uncomfortable, but her parents tell her she's being rude when she doesn't want to hug him. She asked me if I thought that was normal. What did you tell her? I said it's never rude to not want someone to touch you, even family, and that she should tell a teacher or another adult if her parents won't listen. Was that okay? I felt my chest tighten with pride. That was exactly right, buddy. Exactly right. Should I tell someone? Like, an adult? Do you know which uncle she was talking about? She said Uncle Tim. But I don't know his last name. Okay. How about we call Detective Okonkwo and let her know? She can make sure someone checks in with Jeremy's sister, just to be safe. Owen nodded, relief crossing his face. Yeah, I don't want her to have nightmares like I did. We called Detective Okonkwo, who thanked Owen for reporting and said she'd look into it. Later, I found out that Jeremy's sister, Emma, had been trying to tell adults for months that her uncle made her uncomfortable during tickle fights, but everyone brushed it off as childhood silliness. Owen's report led to an investigation. Emma's uncle wasn't charged with anything. There wasn't enough evidence. But the family started therapy, boundaries were established, and Emma learned that her discomfort was valid, that she had the right to say no. Sometimes I wonder how many children might have been spared if someone had believed Vanessa when she was young, if someone had stopped whatever broke her so badly that she could do what she did to her own son. The cycle of abuse is real, though it's never an excuse. But I also think about the cycle Owen is breaking, how he's learning to trust again, to recognize manipulation, to stand up for himself and others, how he took his worst experience and is using it to help other kids. On Owen's 10th birthday, we had a small party at my place. Derek came, and Rachel, and Detective Okonkwo, and Dr. Riza, and a handful of Owen's friends from school. As I watched him blow out his candles, surrounded by people who loved him and would protect him, I thought about that first drawing, about how close we'd come to missing it. Later that night, after everyone had left and Owen was getting ready for bed, he came into the living room in his pajamas. "Hey, can I tell you something?" he asked. "Always. I'm glad it was you," I told. "That day with the drawing. I almost didn't show you, because I was scared you'd be mad at me. But I'm glad I did. I'm glad too, buddy. So glad. Dr. Reza says that telling you probably saved my life. Like, not just from what was happening, but from what it was doing to my brain. She says if it had gone on much longer, I might not have been able to get better like I am now. Your therapist is very smart." "She is." He paused. "I wrote something in group therapy today. Do you want to read it? If you want to share it." He pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket and handed it to me. In his careful handwriting, it said, "Things I know now that I didn't know before. It's not tattling to tell when someone hurts you. Adults are supposed to protect kids, not hurt them. If an adult is doing something bad, they're the one who should be ashamed, not you. Family means people who keep you safe, not just people you're related to. You can have nightmares and still be brave. Love shouldn't hurt. You deserve to be believed. And sometimes the people who hurt you go to jail. And that's a good thing." I had to blink back tears as I read it. "This is really powerful, Owen. Really important. Dr. Reza says I should share it with the other kids in group so they know they're not alone. Is that okay?" "It's more than okay. It's incredibly generous of you." He shrugged. "I just don't want other kids to feel as alone as I felt. Before I told you, I thought I was the only one. I thought maybe it was normal and I was the weird one for not liking it. Now I know lots of kids go through bad stuff, and we can help each other." He hugged me goodnight and headed to his room. I sat there for a long time, holding that piece of paper, thinking about resilience and courage and the long road to healing. Because here's what I've learned. Breaking the silence is just the first step. What comes after, the therapy, the nightmares, the slow rebuilding of trust, that's the real work. And it's work that never fully ends. Owen will carry this with him forever. But he won't carry it alone, and he won't let it destroy him. 3 years after the trial, I got a call from a producer at CBC who wanted to do a documentary about child protection and the warning signs parents and educators should watch for. They wanted to interview me, and they wanted to know if Owen would be willing to participate. I told them I'd ask him, but that the decision was entirely his. That night at dinner, I mentioned it to Owen. He was 12 now, tall for his age, starting to look more like a teenager than a little kid. "Would I have to talk about everything?" he asked. "You'd only talk about what you're comfortable sharing. And you could do it anonymously if you want. Change your name, disguise your voice." He thought about it for a while, pushing rice around on his plate. Could it help other kids? It might. If even one parent recognizes the warning signs because of something you said, that's one more kid who gets help sooner. Then I'll do it. But I want to use my real name. I don't want to hide anymore. The documentary aired that fall. Owen was articulate and brave, explaining in clear terms what the warning signs had been, what he wished the adults in his life had noticed sooner. He talked about the special games language, about being told to keep secrets, about the gradual isolation from other family members. But he also talked about healing, about how therapy helped, about the importance of having at least one adult you can trust completely. The response was enormous. The documentary won awards. More importantly, it led to policy changes in British Columbia around mandatory reporting and child welfare investigations. Schools across the province implemented new training programs for teachers and staff. And Owen got letters, hundreds of them, from other survivors thanking him for speaking up, from parents who recognized warning signs in their own families and got their kids help, from teachers who said they'd intervene differently now. He kept every single letter in a box under his bed. On the 5-year anniversary of Vanessa's conviction, Owen asked if we could visit her. I was surprised, but Dr. Reza thought it might be therapeutic, a chance for him to confront her from a position of strength rather than victimhood. The prison visit was supervised and brief. Vanessa looked older, worn down in a way that had nothing to do with age. When Owen walked in, she started crying. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I know it doesn't mean anything, but I'm so sorry." Owen looked at her for a long moment. "Do you understand what you did to me?" "Yes, I do now. The therapy here, it's helped me see. I was broken, and instead of fixing myself, I broke you too." "You didn't break me," Owen said firmly. "You hurt me. You hurt me really badly. But I'm not broken. I'm healing, and I'm going to keep healing. I'm glad. You deserve every happiness, sweetheart." "Don't call me that." His voice was steady. "You don't get to use nice words anymore. You lost that right." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I came here because Dr. Reza thought it would help me to tell you something," Owen continued. "To tell you that I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I don't want to carry anger anymore. It's too heavy, but forgiving you doesn't mean what you did was okay. It means I'm choosing not to let you have power over me anymore." "Thank you," she whispered. "I also came to tell you that I'm okay. I have a good life. People who love me. I'm doing well in school. I have friends. I'm on the debate team. And someday, when I'm old enough, I'm going to be a child psychologist, so I can help other kids like me. So in a weird way, you helped me find my purpose. I'm going to spend my life undoing the damage people like you do." We left shortly after. In the car, Owen was quiet. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah, that was hard, but I think I needed it. To see that she's just a person, you know? Not a monster in my nightmares. Just a sad, broken person who did monstrous things. It makes it feel more real somehow, more finished. I'm proud of you. That took a lot of courage. You know what's weird? I feel bad for her. Like, I still hate what she did, and I'm angry about it. But I also feel sorry for her, stuck in there, knowing what she did. That's going to be her life forever. That's called empathy, buddy. It's one of your best qualities. Don't lose it." Now Owen is 15. He volunteers at a youth center, helping younger kids who've been through trauma. He's a straight-A student. He has a girlfriend, though whether that'll last through the end of the school year is anyone's guess. He plays guitar. He wants to get his driver's license the day he turns 16. He still sees Dr. Reza once a month, just for maintenance. He still has the occasional nightmare. But mostly, he's just a regular teenager, worried about regular teenager things, like whether he'll make the soccer team and why calculus is so hard. Last week, he came home from school excited about a project his class was doing on social justice issues. "I'm going to do mine on child advocacy laws," he said, "about how we need better protection for kids and better training for people who work with children. Is that okay? To talk about it? It's your story, Owen. You can tell it however and whenever you want. Will you help me with the research?" "Absolutely." We spent the evening going through statistics, legal cases, expert testimony. Owen took notes with the same focused intensity he'd had at 7, drawing that first picture. But now he was using that intensity to fight back, to make sure other kids had better protections than he'd had. His presentation to the class was powerful enough that his teacher asked him to present it to the school board. That led to an invitation to speak at a provincial education conference. And Owen, who'd once been too scared to speak at all, stood in front of 200 educators and told them exactly what they needed to do better. I stood at the back of that conference hall, watching my nephew, this remarkable young man who'd taken the worst thing that could happen to a child and transformed it into purpose, into advocacy, into change. After his speech, during the Q&A, someone asked him what message he'd want other survivors to hear. He didn't hesitate. Tell someone. Even if you think no one will believe you, tell someone anyway. Keep telling until someone listens. Because I promise you, there's someone out there who will believe you, who will fight for you, who will help you get safe. It might take time. It might be hard. But you deserve to be believed, and you deserve to be safe. And if the first person you tell doesn't help, tell someone else. Don't give up on yourself. Then he added, and to the adults, believe children. When a kid tells you something's wrong, believe them. Don't make excuses for the accused. Don't minimize what the child is saying. Just believe them and get them help. That's your job, to protect children, even when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient or when it disrupts your comfortable life. Children are counting on you. Don't let them down. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. That night, as we drove home through the Vancouver rain, Owen said, "Do you think I'm doing okay? Like, for someone who went through what I went through. I think you're doing more than okay. I think you're extraordinary. Sometimes I wonder who I'd be if it hadn't happened. If I'd be different. You'd definitely be different. Trauma changes you. But Owen, you've taken something terrible and used it to help others. That's not because of what happened to you. That's because of who you are, who you've always been. Kind, brave, thoughtful. Those are the parts of you that existed before and still exist now." He nodded slowly. Dr. Reza says something similar, that the abuse didn't create these parts of me. It just revealed them. She's right. I'm glad I told you. That day with the drawing. I'm glad you were the person I trusted. Me too, buddy. Me too. As I write this, Owen is preparing for university applications. He wants to study psychology, specializing in childhood trauma. He wants to research better therapeutic interventions, more effective ways to help kids heal. The road hasn't been easy. There have been setbacks, dark periods, moments when the trauma felt overwhelming. But there's also been tremendous growth, resilience, joy. If I could go back to that Saturday morning when Owen handed me that drawing, I'd tell myself this: what you're about to do will be the hardest thing you've ever done. You'll lose sleep. You'll question yourself. You'll face legal consequences and family fractures. But you'll save a child's life. And not just his physical life, his emotional and psychological life too. You'll give him the chance to heal, to thrive, to become the remarkable person he was always meant to be. And I'd tell myself to pay attention in the coming years, to remember the small victories, the gradual healing, the moments of joy breaking through the darkness, because those moments matter just as much as the dramatic rescue. To anyone reading this who suspects a child is being abused, trust your instincts. Ask questions. Listen carefully. Believe what you're told. Report to the authorities. Don't wait for perfect proof. Don't worry about being wrong or causing trouble. A child's safety is more important than adult comfort. And to the survivors, I see you. Your pain is real. Your experiences matter. Healing is possible, even when it doesn't feel like it. Find your people, the ones who believe you and support you. Use whatever resources you can access: therapy, support groups, crisis lines. And know that what happened to you doesn't define you. You're so much more than your trauma. As for Owen and me, we're still figuring this out day by day. Some days are harder than others, but we're doing it together, and that makes all the difference. He's not just my nephew anymore. He's my son in every way that matters, and I'm so incredibly proud of the person he's becoming. The other day, he said something that stayed with me. I used to think the worst thing that ever happened to me was what Vanessa and Harrison did. But now I think the worst thing would have been if no one believed me, if I'd stayed silent, if I'd never gotten help. What they did was horrible, but it's over. I survived it, and now I get to decide what comes next. And he's right. He's survived. He's thriving. And he's using his experience to make the world safer for other children. That's not just survival, that's triumph. And every single day, I'm honored to witness it.